So today we're looking at the long brief for precautionary search and landing. So let's paint a scenario. You're coming into Bankstown Airport um, after a long nav. There's heavy rain. You can't see the airports. You're running out of fuel, and it's end of daylight approaching. So you need to land as soon as possible. And we've got our grass strip as well. And we're going to do a precautionary search and landing so we can safely land on the grass strip. As it is an online brief. So aim. To learn how to safely locate, correctly inspect, and carry out a power-assisted landing into a suitable field. So we'll assess the field to determine if it is suitable to land on. And we've also got power in this procedure, which will help us to be able to land the aeroplane. Motivation. So a PSL assists in preventing an urgent situation turning into an emergency. So for example, you're running out of fuel. This could lead to fuel exhaustion, which would be a immediate emergency situation where you have to land immediately. So this procedure is designed to aid the pilot in assessing the conditions of an unfamiliar landing area and to form a plan. And because we have time, we can, due to power being available, our engine hasn't failed. We can formulate a plan and assess the field if it's suitable to land on. Some reasons why we need to do a PSL are last light, deteriorating weather, and a sick passenger as well. And we'll also have a look at some more reasons in this brief. An overview of what we'll have a look at today. So, objectives, that's a take-home message. We'll have a look at a revision from our strain level and practice force landings brief. We'll look at definitions that will be relevant for today. We'll look at the circumstances, so the reasons why you would need to do a PSL. We'll have a look at the field selection criteria. It's quite similar to what we looked at in a PFL. We'll have a look at the application. That's the fun part. We'll have a look at what we'll actually be doing in the air. The risks of low-level flying, especially since you're so close to the terrain. So there's a few things we'll look at. Airmanship and threat management I'll aim to include all throughout this brief. Summarize everything, and then finally I'll ask you a few questions with the objectives. So following this brief, you'll be able to, from memory, state the reasons why it will be necessary to conduct a precautionary search and landing. So this is important because the earlier we realise we are in a situation where we need to do a precautionary search and landing, the earlier we can do it. And it does, take 15 to 20 minutes as a procedure, so you have to decide early on. Say the procedure to follow for the first inspection run. So this is important. It sets us up for the rest of the procedure. It also may be our last run, so we want to be able to get as much information as possible. Says mathematical method for estimating the strip length. It allows us to determine if the field is of a suitable length. If it's not, we can simply move on to another field and identify and manage two airborne threats. So revision. Describe the safe slow configuration in the PA-28 Warrior. So the safe slow configuration is power is 2100 RPM. The attitude is about 1/3 ground, 2/3 sky. Speed is about 70-75 knots in the Warrior, and make sure you're trim and balanced. The reason why we do it is it gives us good forward view. The flaps gives us a margin of the stall speed, and the flaps also slows us down, so it gives us so that we can inspect the field properly. What does the acronym WAS stand for? So it stands for wind, obstacles, surface, shape, slope, size, surroundings. And we'll have a look at that in terms of, we'll have a look at an added one, sun, and this is the same criteria we will use for a PSL. What is the difference between a pan-pan call and a mayday call? So the pan-pan call is to do with an urgency situation, and a mayday call is to do with grave and imminent danger. So it's really important you know the structure of the call just in case you need to make one. So definitions: aircraft landing area, an area of land suitable for use for the landing or takeoff of aircraft. Our aeroplanes can land on surface and runways that aren't bitumen, such as grass or surfaces made out of dirt strips. And this is typically a licensed and unlicensed or unregistered aerodrome, such as one found in the country on private properties, but can also be a paddock or a clearing as found in the outback. You can refer to the Civil Aviation Advisory Publication 92-1 for more information on ALAs. So RAF, so this is the Royal Air Force, but it stands for Reference Point Airspeed Field. So the procedure used for inspecting the landing field/area. So reference point, choose a point and distance to assist with directional guidance. Choose a point quite close because one of the reasons why we do a PSL is due to low visibility, especially being quite low. So choose a close reference point. Airspeed to be monitored closely due to close proximity of the terrain. We risk if you let it go too slow, you can stall, which is disastrous at quite low level. And field, the proposed landing field/area as well. Make sure to keep it in sight as well. So the pan call, so used when there is an urgent situation of a lower order than a grave and imminent threat. So the standard message is structure is pan, and the 5 W's: who you're talking to, who you are, where you are, what is wrong, and what your intentions are. So for example, pan, Sydney Centre, Cherokee, Alpha Bravo Charlie, 15 nautical miles west Bankstown Airport, 2 POB. We're running out of fuel. And we'll do a precautionary search and landing, and we'll contact you on the ground. And so it's really important you know the structure of it. It's also in your URSA at the back in the emergency section. And in the training area, the pan call, we'll practice it over the intercom. And one of the threats that exist in this lesson is urgency. The error will be having a poor time management, so you're rushing through the procedure, and the undesired aircraft state will be a possible emergency. So make sure you maintain situational awareness and don't rush through the procedure. So circumstances of reasons why you need to do a precautionary search and landing. So there could be deteriorating weather, and there could be non-VMC weather around you in all directions. It could be low fuel state, which is and you won't make it to your home airport. So lost and running out of fuel sort of go hand in hand. You could have engine or airframe issues as well. Things like rough running and high T's and P's. You could have a pilot or passenger incapacitation, and it might not necessarily be a passenger, it could even be you. ALA inspection for proposed landings and normal operation, so it doesn't have to be a urgency situation, and impending last light. So one of the threats as well, in terms of fuel, we've got low fuel state. Error will be not switching tanks, and if you don't do that, it can lead to fuel starvation. So make sure you monitor fuel. And in terms of your circumstances, usually it's a few of these factors, such as being lost, running out of fuel, and having poor weather around you as well. So it can be avoided by obtaining meteorological information. If the weather's not good, simply don't fly. Good command decision making, as we talked about. Situation awareness, monitoring fuel, route preparation. So preparing the maps well, maintaining headings and tracks to prevent getting lost, and good airmanship / pre-flight planning. So watching out for that last light. So in ARP en route 1.2-1, for VFR flight, you have to be back 10 minutes before last light as well, because that 10 minutes allows you to do a standard circuit. And that's one of the threats as well that exist of low visibility. The error will be last light, and the undesired aircraft state will be disorientation. So make sure you maintain visual contact. So field selection. So with prior planning and situational awareness, you can prevent urgency from becoming an emergency. Many pilots have pushed on, hoping things will get better, but things don't get better, they get worse. So the range of options depends on your circumstances and time available. So using good command decision making, you can do a PSL, as it does also take about 20 minutes to do. So make sure to decide early on. So the order of preference is an active aerodrome, because that's got all the facilities. An ALA, could be a private airstrip, and a suitable landing area, if you can't find any of those. So our field selection is done using our WASP checks. So wind, ascertain where the wind is coming from. So you want to land into a headwind. Overshoot, undershoot, check for obstacles, trees, power lines, surroundings, obstacles in the area, population, roads, water. You want to land sort of close to the road so you can get help. Size, 500 meters length or the longest available. That's sufficient for our aeroplane to stop. Shape, ideally rectangular. Avoid, circular fields that can have crops. Slope, you want to be sort of aimed to land level slope. There's certain illusions with landing upslope, and you certainly wouldn't land downslope. And low cloud. And also, if you have a low cloud, you would want to choose. Would you rather choose a short road or a longer field with long grass? You'd rather choose to land on that longer field, as well as it gives you a bit of a margin of safety. And surface, as we talked about, so you want to aim to land on short dry grass and sun. Are we landing in the sun? So if you are landing towards the west, in the afternoon, you may experience the sun. So you can aim to, and since you've also got power, aim to land, if the sun is coming to your eyes, choose to land into a crosswind direction as well. So application, determining the field length of the field. So it's done using the formula, half times ground speed times time, seconds, equals length meters. So half times 80 times 10 gives us 400 meters. The way this formula works is, so distance equals speed times time. So if we do, we've got our time here, 10 seconds, and what this half is, times 80, so 80 knots, that's our speed. What that half is you want to convert 80 knots into kilometers, so that's 1.825, and then you want to convert it into meters per second, so that's 3.6. So if you do 1.825 divided by 3.6, you get half. It works out pretty well. Another good rule of thumb is if your ground speed is 80 knots, 10 seconds is 400 meters, 15 is 600, 20 seconds is 800 meters as well. Pretty much if you're, these tricks help us in the training area. If it's 15 seconds, it's sufficient enough for us to land. So first off, you're going to put the airplane in the safe slow configuration. As we talked about, in terms of its advantages, you'll be at about 1,000 feet AGL. So in the Bankstown training area, this will be about 1,400 feet. Then you're going to do your reference point airspeed field. You're going to do your timing length and time the field when it reaches that leading edge and up until the end. You're going to make a decision, yes. Is it sufficient to land on? If no, choose another field. Reference point airspeed field. Make a turn onto crosswind, reference point airspeed field. Then you're going to do your WASP checks. Wind, overshoots, undershoots, surroundings, size, shape, slope, surface. Then you can descend, use the approach configuration to 500 feet AGL. And choose a good feature as well around the field so you don't lose it. And then we've got that threat of low level. The area will be having a poor lookout, and it can lead to that controlled flight into terrain. So make sure you inspect for field as well. In a real situation, we can go below 500 feet due to weather or for a closer inspection. But for our lesson, we'll only do it 2 passes at 500 feet. So 500 feet AGL, so about 800, 900 feet in the training area. You use 900 feet as a margin. And you can do reference point airspeed field. Closer inspection using WASP, so you're doing a quicker one. Just to confirm things you've seen. You need to make a decision yes or no. If not, choose another field. Then you're going to climb to circuit height, so about 1,000 feet AGLs, so 1,400 feet on your altimeter. Then you're going to do your pan call, your passenger brief, things such as we're running out of fuel, we'll be landing in the field on the left. So loose items, assume the brace position. After we land, we exit towards our right, and something well right off the aeroplane. Something as simple as that. So then it's going to be pretty much the procedures for a normal downwind. So you can do your barnfish checks. You can do HHSS, so height 1,400 feet, heading on your compass, speed about 70-75 knots. Depending on the day, could even be 80 knots, and then that 1/3 wing space. Then you're going to be descending into the approach configuration as well. You can also extend your downwing so it prepares you for landing. Then do your normal work cycle AAA, and then your final, and then make sure you go around 5 feet AGL, so about 800 feet. Really, this is important. It's not any instructor initiated go around. You must go around as a student. And you'd use a short field landing, so you'd have your third stage of flap before turning onto final. And post landing, taxiing may damage the aeroplane, so just leave it where it is. Shut down the aeroplane. So you'd use FMMM, fuel off, mixture mags, master all off, and advise air traffic services via radio/phone. So risks of low-level flying. So considerations, so perspective, limited visibility in the horizon, and there's also an increased workload. So this can be due to low weather considerations, and you also need to manage the airplane a lot more to prevent an undesired aircraft state. So make sure you aviate, navigate, communicate. Obstacles, so wind, farms, and power lines. Not something that can usually be in the training area in terms of wind farms, but certainly if you go around to places like Crookwell, they do have wind farms. Terrain, generally rising terrain, which can be hard to see, buildings, and obstacles as well. And can be hard to notice as well, being quite low, so you want to watch out for that. And turbulence, such other weather considerations. Turbulence is quite dangerous, being quite low level, it can cause a loss of control. So in terms of the airmanship, aviate, navigate, communicate. So good situational awareness allows us to make early decisions. So decide early on rather than pressing on, hoping that your situation will get better, because it will get worse. Communicate with air traffic services for help. They're only there to help you, and they can get you the help you need. Keep passengers informed, ask them to inspect the field. The more eyes, the better, and you can keep them calm, gives them things to do. Flying low level, keep eyes outside, and also look out for traffic in the training area. And it's quite busy as well. You want to maintain your A-lap cycle attitude, look out attitude performance. Minimum altitudes, in the training area, watching out for that not 800 feet as well, and 1,300 feet over over a non-populated area. So this is only in the training area. It's 500 and 1,000 feet AGL. In a real situation, you can make extra passes if you're unsure. But if you're running out of fuel, you probably wouldn't as well. Or if there's a last slide. So threats, so we've got these 4 threats. It's certainly not limited to these. These are the main ones. So you've got that threat of low visibility, airby losing sight of the field, and last light, undesired aircraft state with disorientation. So the management technique would be doing RAF and maintain visual contact. So we've got the threat of low level, poor lookout, airby poor lookout, not maintaining height, and the undesired aircraft state will be collision with obstacles/terrain. So you make sure you have a good scan and you inspect for obstacles. So the threat of unsuitable field, the error will be poor field analysis. The management technique will be WASP/select another field. And if you don't do a good field analysis, you'll be landing into an unsuitable landing area. Threat of urgency, poor time management, managed by procedure situational awareness. If you don't manage your time, it can lead to a possible emergency or also the unsuitable landing area. So in terms of the summary, so we looked at the objectives, that's the take-home message. We looked at revision from our Australia level and PFL brief. We looked at definitions such as RAF, reference point airspeed field, ALAs, Mayday call, Pan call. Looked at the circumstances and the reasons, the field selection criteria, the application. Make sure you know that procedure well. Looked at the risks of low-level flying, especially being so close to terrain. And we also looked at the airmanship and threat management considerations, watching out for obstacles, good lookout, maintaining visual contact, and managing your time. And then finally, with the objectives. So from memory, I'll give you a moment just to come up with the answers as well with these questions before I give you the answer. You can pause the video as well. So state 2 reasons why it would be necessary to conduct a precautionary search and landing. So it could be due to last flight or running out of fuel. State procedure to follow for the first inspection run. So putting the airplane in the safe slow, timing the field, doing your WAS checks, and state the mathematical method for estimating the strip length, so using half ground speed times seconds. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you fly safe.